Welcome back to Chaosvash gameplay. Now we are playing Stories, The Path of Destinies, episode 16. And like I said, once again, I want to thank my two new followers who subscribed to me today. I really appreciate it. MG Gamer and Anime Videos, I believe. So thank you for looking out. Thanks a lot, man. I really appreciate it. All right, so let's get going, shall we?
Lapino had apparently managed to confuse the judge by arguing that he hadn't actually stolen a winged horse. He'd only sold it. But wait, where was the prison? The village was empty.
Rabbit season.
Had everybody fled the ravens? People were frightened these days. Just 2 weeks past, Renardo had sneaked through an empty town and listened to the ravens caw about the Emperor's new taste in ritual sacrifice. The village looked so peaceful. Were the villagers hiding somewhere? Of course not. No matter how much he searched, he would only find ravens here. What was the point of this gate? Did they think no one would notice the lever? Ravens were landing everywhere. the advance guard. He'd better get moving. If they got to Lupino first, they'd eat him for breakfast. Or a snack. Ravens weren't picky. If they got hungry, they sometimes forgot to interrogate their prisoners. Even top spies like Lupino. Well, unless he really was a traitor, obviously. Then they'd probably pin a medal on his chest.
Lovely. Hold that pose.
Lupino would betray him. But now Renato knew that. What would Lupino do if he knew that Lupino was going to betray him? Well, he'd concoct some crazy scheme, wouldn't he? That used Lupino's betrayal against him and it would blow up in his face. Yeah. Maybe he was overthinking this. And that would be a first. Dirty and bloody, Renato finally reached Lupino. The rabbit was practicing his shuffle. Renato recognized the cards. It was Lupino's favorite deck. Oh, I thought you were in danger. I am. The ravens are coming. Oh, the prison. We capture Zenobia. We find out what she knows. And that's the whole war right there. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Capture the Emperor's greatest general, who happened to also be a deadly sorcerer, and, oh, his only daughter? That would be worth it. And it would be nice to see her. He'd always had a soft spot for her. And he felt sure she had one for him. On the other hand, he could still get to the core of the Sky Ripper, even if he couldn't get the whole thing. It must have great power. To make the Sky Ripper, it's beautiful here, thought Renato. It was nice to be back with his old war buddy. All right. Lupino was a traitor. But still, it was good company. There was something sour in the air. Like the earth had ruptured over something that had been fermenting for a very long time.
Oh, good! I didn't even run for my nest, said the lead raven.
Bernardo felt wrong all over. He could feel an almost palpable sickness in the air. And if the land could have tumors, they would look like these monstrous crystals. The forest was quieter than it had been. There were insects, but few birds. You didn't count the ravens. Bernardo smelled sick animals and dying ones. No healthy ones. I'm getting a bad feeling about this. Bernardo thought. Maybe Lapina was right. Maybe they should have kidnapped Zenobia instead of coming here. As he held the radiant icosahedron, Bernardo felt queasy, like dozens of tiny worms were nibbling his insides. It wasn't healthy to be so close to the eye of a god.
Tell you what, said Lupino. I'll take it to the observatory. You attack the Imperial outpost.
The Imperial outpost was a vital communications node. Taking it could shatter the Empire's ability to coordinate. And it would be full of secret plans and maps and maybe even rebel prisoners. It was a good target for a hero like Bernardo. But what if Lupino lost the core to the Empire? That could be a good thing, couldn't it? Was Bernardo ready to take that risk? Maybe it was better if he brought the core to the scientists himself. Lapino was a touchy rabbit. Bernardo knew. As Bernardo watched Lapino vanish on the horizon, he could feel nausea building in him. He felt ill. Could his knees really be aching this much? But how could he have handed the core off to Lapino? That was a recipe for disaster. Bernardo felt worse. All his joints were aching now. He'd been through beatings that felt better than this. So the core had a kind of poison that could harm you without even touching you. That's new. Well, it had power. The rebellion needed something with power. And how was this any worse than a sword wound? Well, a death by sword was sudden and fair. This was just squalid. A piecemeal death, like old age. A cannon trap. Who doesn't love being shot at by cannons? And who kept these things loaded anyway?
What are you guys dressed up as for Halloween? Just wondering.
Renata could feel his wounds closing. Ooh, we hope nothing else closed up that wasn't supposed to. The observatory was a burning hulk. Dead scientists everywhere. Bernardo found the mad rabbit cowering under a desk. The ravens, they must have known we were coming, said Lupino. Bernardo wasn't sure he believed that. But Lupino was talking so fast. He always seemed to make sense. The secret rebel base. Yes. They had engineers there. But wait. Calaveras, the sage in the mountains. Maybe he would know what to do with the naked core. Ah, yes. The secret base. Not even Lupino knew where it was. They had engineers there. Those toads would surely know what to do with the core's power. And then he'd be free of it. But he couldn't take Lupino. The core would work its evil on him too. You stay here. Give me the coordinates. I'll meet you there. Lupino seemed awfully anxious to have the coordinates of the secret rebel base. Someone needs to bury these scientists.
Why do I get all the fun jobs?
And with that, Bernardo returned to the Farfarer and took off. The ruins were quiet, but Bernardo could hear a buzzing in his ears. Was it bugs? Or was it the core slowly feeding him poison? The council would know what to do. If the core had this much power, it could surely change the terms of the great battle that was coming. And maybe they would take this burden from him. Maybe. Oh, she'd been an amazing rabbit. She could talk to him about comics, and talk to her son about history and battles, and talk to scholars about the ancient tomes hidden deep in the vaults of the Library of Rhubar. Oh, Renato really missed her. Renato had left Lupino behind because the core was poison. The core was poisoned because he didn't have the armature. He didn't have the armature. Sure, the Emperor had gone mad. Sure, Renato had heard horrors from the ghosts of dead kittens and puppies sacrificed in his blasphemous rituals. But when he jumped in, he'd only been a little bored and slightly broke. And here he was, carrying a bucket of death across a broken landscape. Then drop it and run. Because he hated to quit in the middle. That was his fatal flaw. He had to know how it all turned out.
Interrupted story time!
Called the lead raven.
Now we'll never find out how it ended!
A doctor once told Renato that fruit was a placebo. But he felt better. And that was what was important. You blinked. Long stairs. So he was close to the rebel base. Nothing was on fire. So far, so good. God. It's full of stars. Renato had heard stories of a dungeon where chests were filled with potions and weapons. Fairy tales. dropped the core at the entrance to the council chambers.
Get that thing out of here!
Croaked the speaker.
It's making us sick!
That's the core of the Sky Ripper, said Renato.
No, it's not useless at all,
Said an engineer toad.
it's poisonous. Look at the fox. He's ill, probably dying.
Yeah, not useless at all, said Renato. So what do I do? Rub it on His Majesty? The engineer chuckled. Renato didn't like it when engineers chuckled.
Oh, I got it. Listen, I can make a bomb that spread bits of the core all over a circle about 100 paces wide. Yeah, little chunks of poison and death. All you have to do is just get it near the Emperor. You'll kill him and his bodyguard and chop off the head of the fleet. Yeah, and if we're lucky, might poison some of the ravens around there as well.
What about me?
Right, what about you? Well, I'll build in a timer. You can set it and run.
No, that's a horrible idea, said Renato.
Well, we have to do something, yes?
Said the speaker.
This is something.
Renato couldn't argue with that. And so, reluctantly, Renato loaded the rigged core onto the Farfarer and set sail towards the Emperor's ship. The rebels took the fight to the Imperial fleet, but Renato was too sick to enjoy the view. He must have passed out as a firm hand grabbed him and shoved him forward. This was it. The fleet seemed very big, and its ravens very tough. Or maybe he was just slower and weaker than before. He hated the idea of poisoning the enemy. It wasn't fair. Face to face with a raven, let the best swordsman survive. But they wouldn't even know what was killing them. Feather by feather, scale by scale. He didn't mind dying a hero. That sometimes went with being a hero. But he didn't feel at all like a hero. Not today. Renato had a feeling that was the back door to something. But what?
He was exhausted.
He was making stupid mistakes. His fur was coming off in bunches. Up ahead, he could see the Emperor's ship, long and sleek, a floating palace. The bomb would only poison a circle 100 paces wide.
He would get as close as he could, set it, and run. Oh, this was a lousy way to win a rebellion, he thought. He didn't want to meddle to this. He just wanted to be forgotten.
You shall not pass!
Renato twisted the timer and the bomb as far as it would go and staggered off. His knees hurt. Oh, everything hurt. He staggered away as far as he could until he had to lie down. He could see the entire Imperial fleet from here, and the rebel ships engaged with it. There was a blinding flash. And a second later, a monstrous thump. Burning rocks arced across the sky over both fleets. A wreath of fire shot outwards, rolling across the fleets. A pillar of smoke boiled up from where the Emperor's ship had been. It reached into the clouds. That's a wee bit more than 100 paces, thought Renato. It took Renato most of that evening to die. Some of the toughest ravens lasted all week. Some of the rebels in the furthest ships survived as much as a month. That winter, with neither Empire nor rebels to rule them, the islands slid into banditry. And so began the Second Age of Darkness.
Oh, again?
But he already had all the secrets he needed. He was sure of that. He must have not used them the right way. What was the best, worst mistake he could make? Probably trusting that traitor Lupino. The book's pages fluttered to the beginning once again. Faster than before, and he fell. The clouds parted over the Isles of Boreas. It was time to choose. The rebellion was in trouble. Ravens were scouting for the secret rebel base. They needed a game changer. Pieces of the Sky Ripper had surfaced. Renato knew that using it could go catastrophically wrong. But he was sure he could figure out how to use it safely. Also, a temple had risen out of empty desert. The Iblis stone was hidden there. It was a dangerous artifact. It could corrupt its user into a bloodthirsty monster. Maybe he could find a way to use it. To take its power without surrendering to its wickedness. And also, his old friend Lupino needed rescuing. Of course. Renato had a pretty strong suspicion that Lupino had betrayed the rebellion, and he had a gut feeling that he needed to use that to his advantage.
Renato finally realized that Lapino was a traitor to the cause. And maybe Renato could use that somehow. Renato couldn't quite put his paw on when he'd realized Lapino was working for the Empire. He'd never exactly seen Lapino sending coded messages to the palace, but he was sure. The rabbit had been on too many disastrous missions where he was the only survivor, or where he accidentally missed getting on the boat that went down to the abyss in flames. If Renato could prevent Lapino from getting back to the fleet with all the intelligence he'd probably gathered, it might be worth the trip. How had they come to this? They'd been on so many adventures together. Lapino had talked Renato out of prison at least 4 times, and Renato had rescued Lapino from at least 2 lynch mobs.
All right, that's it for us. As you see, we are done. We had a great day. We made a great day. You know what I'm saying? You know, we met some new people. You know what I'm saying? Got some new followers. You know what I'm saying? You know, we started off with the gaming news, anime news. Kicked it off with some Mafia 3. Did some more missions. Still got ways more to go. Then, you know, stories of Path of Destinies. You know, I'm getting closer and closer to figuring out Lapino's little dirty little tricks. Alright, so other than that, man, hope you all have a good night. This is your boy, the one and only Chaosvash, aka Lil Punch 01, sign off. Stay cool, stay safe, stay breezy, real breezy. I'll holla at you later on tonight. Hold some more gaming news, anime news. Peace.